Speaking of Michigan State, is there anybody in the Big Ten Eastern Division outside of Ann Arbor that would scare any of you more so than the other teams? Kevin?
According to the FPI, I think that Ohio State should be scared of everybody because this ridiculousness that they have an 8% chance to win whatever. And you look at the Vegas odds. I mean, I'm going to go with the bookmakers rather than the nerds when it comes down to that stuff. But I've been just lying in wait to rip on the FPI and how stupid it is. But I don't know. Every team is definitely has their flaws. I mean, Penn State is breaking in a lot of new people. They had a mass exodus in terms of transfers and whatnot. Michigan State returns a lot of people, but are a lot of the people they're returning ones that are going to strike fear in your heart? I mean, Brian Lewerke or Rocky Lombardi at quarterback. I mean, neither of them necessarily are as intimidating as facing Adrian Martinez at Nebraska. And I think Maryland is going to be interesting.
7 years.
Was that?
I said for 7 years.
I know. Well, don't get me started on Jack Cohn in the West. We already know that. But, I had a pretty spirited debate with somebody about Maryland. Somebody saying that, Mike Locksley is 3 years away from already getting fired after just getting hired. I think that's going to be an interesting team to see what he's able to do there. Maybe take away some of the issues he's had in terms of compliance and things along those lines in terms of recruiting. But I think he's a talented coach. And I think if he's able to get some things out of some of these players that he has there, I think Maryland could rise up and, beat a team or two. They're not going to come into Columbus and beat Ohio State by any stretch of the imagination. But that's the team I'm most interested to watch in the Big Ten or the East outside of the Big Two.
I think we need to invite Jack Cohn onto the show and have Kevin host and interview him directly. Or I'm going to do a Jack Cohn profile, a special video on Jack Cohn. My goodness, that kid's taking a beating from Kevin.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Jack.
Tony, Kevin cited the number that you talked about last week. I was, of course, at work, but listening intently. I could not believe, was it actually not 6% to go to the college football playoff? It was 6% to win the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, I think it was like
8%.
7.8 or 8% to win the Big Ten. Behind 8%. Penn State. Yeah, behind Penn State and way behind Michigan at like 48%.
If in reality the Big Ten season could be played 100 times, Ohio State would only win it 8 times. Seriously.
Yeah, and Minnesota will win at 7, according to those numbers.
Yeah, I don't even think Michigan would be 48% likely to win the Big Ten if they're in the Big Ten championship game.
Oh.
But yeah, that whole thing was it's kind of ridiculous. But Noon, real quick about the Mike Locksley thing. I was thinking about this. When Urban Meyer came to Ohio State, he raised the coaching level and forced schools to go get better coaches. And I think what schools really need are lifers. And now you look at the Big Ten, how many lifers you've got. And I wonder if Mike Locksley is that at Maryland, because he says he is. He's always wanted this job. But Pat Fitzgerald, Scott Frost. Do you see Scott Frost going anywhere?
No.
Jim Harbaugh, and he'll eventually go to the NFL or whatever. But they go and get these guys who this should be their final job if everything goes well. Ryan Day. Kirk Ferentz, Paul Christ. Where's Paul Christ going to go?
True.
But
Golden Corral.
James Franklin. But James Franklin, Mark D'Antonio, those guys where they raised the level of the conference because they're going to be there for a long time. They don't want to go anywhere else, and they're happy. Now it's just a matter of getting it done and not getting fired like Chris Ash.
Right. If you look at Locksley's career, I mean, he's definitely run into some issues here and there. That's for another time, another place to get into the stories that are out there with that. But, I really think that Matt Canada should have gotten a little bit more of a look. I thought he did a tremendous job with all the adversity he faced there after the DJ Durkin situation. Durkin has resurfaced as some sort of quality control coach with the Atlanta Falcons now. But, I think that he will definitely raise the level of their recruiting. It's just going to be a matter of, is he going to be able to get something out of them, or is he going to be Ron Zook?
I was going to say, is he Ron Zook? Is he Tim Brewster? Or is he something more? And we don't know, because how can you judge anybody for what happened in New Mexico? what happened on the field. You can judge him for what happened off the field, but nobody's going to win much at New Mexico. So I'm interested to see what he does. Obviously, he's already the transfers that he's brought in, the talent is maybe better than it was last year, and now it's like, well, let's see the results. You're in a terrible division to try to put up results.
How can you evaluate what he did at New Mexico down here? How can you evaluate what he did with the Alabama offense, like on the other end? I think I could call the plays with the Alabama offense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. AKA Lane Kiffin.
AKA Savior Josh Gaddis.
I mean, and Maryland has the opportunity, like Tony said, and like Kevin mentioned, they've got these beautiful facilities that they're always upgrading, and they're, in Under Armour's backyard, and they're close to all these NFL relationships, but they're just really always going to struggle, I think, recruiting wise with Dabo, with the Virginias of the world. Like, I think it's just going to be difficult for them to still
Penn State,
still rise through the ranks.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, that entire area is, I mean, that's a buffet for the entire nation, west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
He only needs to convince one or two guys to keep the band in state.
Dwayne Haskins.
Maybe turn that into a 4 or 5 man, top players in the DMV area to stay there, and then just hope that turns into something. It's just going to take that one time for that to happen. I'm not a big proponent, a big believer in package deals. Talking about, Ohio State recruiting with Nathan Ransom and them, looking like they're going to get Bijan Robinson. That's not a package deal, but they've got to be able to do that. We've said that about Chris Ash. He's got to find those right couple of top kids to stay in Jersey. I just don't believe he's going to be around long enough for that to happen. But, the same thing I'm going to say for Mike Locksley at Maryland.